I'm here to refute the claim that technology has a negative effect on children. The advocate claim that technology has affected children's physical and psychological health, that it's affected their behavior, and that it's a danger for them to use the internet. My response is, while there are negative consequences to advances in technology, my opponent's arguments do not establish causality and are grossly inadequate. My opponent claims that children are becoming obese because they're not exercising and they're spending lots of time watching TV, playing video games and stuff like that. She asserts that this leads to obesity, but does not provide a source to back up her link from television to obesity. In fact, one of her own source articles, which talks about the correlation between video games and repetitive stress injuries, offers an anecdote about two teenage twin boys that own 3 computers, 2 PlayStations, a GameCube, and an Xbox, but are both physically fit. Perhaps my opponent would say that they're the exception to the rule, but I think the real reason lies deeper. The article points to the parents' effort to limit their son's gameplay as a reason for their good health. I believe that this is very important and sets a trend throughout the rest of my speech. It makes sense, after all. Parents buy all the groceries and they prepare the food. Doesn't it make more sense to state that bad parenting is the cause of obesity? Information given by the Mayo Clinic supports this reasoning, stating that there are a number of risk factors that contribute to obesity, among them being diet, genetics, family factors, and socioeconomic factors, as well as inactivity. By my opponent's logic, sitting in class leads to children to become obese because they aren't exercising in their chairs. An example of socioeconomic factors that lead to obesity would be the low-income single mom who works 2 jobs and only has time to make mac and cheese, shake and bake, or rice-a-roni during the week. There's more to the story than simple inactivity. The role of the parent is underemphasized. My opponent points to a rise in fights and crime in schools for her second claim, the usage of bad language and easy access of information about sex, crime, and drugs, but points to no statistical data or evidence on this matter. My source, a 2000 LA Times article by Brian Lowry, quotes Pulitzer Prize-winning Richard Rhodes, saying, "There is no good evidence that watching mock violence in the media either causes or even influences people to become violent." He is backed up by psychology professor Jonathan Friedman that states the scientific evidence does not support the view that exposure to media violence causes aggression. The statistical evidence I have found collected by the National Center of Vital Statistics shows that on average, a school can expect a school shooting of 1 or more students once every 12,800 years. My opponent is using misleading rhetoric and cannot back up any of her claims with more than anecdotal evidence. While it is true anyone can access information on pretty much anything on the internet, it is a child's choice to type those specific keywords and search queries into the search engine. If they're looking up information on sex, drugs, and crime, chances are they probably already are a lost cause. If that is the case, if it becomes such an issue, the parents can easily purchase a $30 to $60 software which prevents children from viewing sketchy websites. My opponent is choosing only to focus on the bad things the internet has to offer, which only gives information at the discretion of the user. Information is never forced on anybody. If a kid wants to look up help for homework or learn how to build their own skate ramp, it is easily possible because of the internet. How can that be a negative thing? In response to my opponent's third claim, that the internet is dangerous for children, I would like to quote a 2008 New York Times article that states, "The tales of pedophiles luring children out of their homes are like plane crashes. They happen extremely rarely, but when they do, they make headlines everywhere. The internet is just another facet of socialization for the new generation. As always, common sense and a level head are the best safeguards." And as far as being kidnapped goes, according to a CNN presentation of data from the U.S. Department of Justice, 25% of children reported missing were kidnapped by a family member, not some stranger online. Only 7% were kidnapped by non-family members, and 0.01% were victims of the stereotypical kidnapping you see on TV, where a child is taken by strangers somewhere far away, ransom is demanded and they are killed or something else. The technology of the internet and video games are considered so useful, it led James Paul G., a Stanford PhD, who has published in multiple science journals, to write a book called What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Teaching and Learning. The book states that when playing video games, the average child learns quickly how to do effective task analysis in real time, making children skilled at situated outcome-oriented learning as early as age 6 or 7, depending on the amount of video game usage. I believe the evidence shows strongly in favor of the positive effects of technology, and that the claim should be restated as bad parenting has a negative effect on children. Thank you.
All right, all the structural issues are fine. All your signposting of the secondary claims is good. You basically are making an argument about causality and sufficiency of proof. The causality claim is the best supported argument in your presentation. You've got the issue of parenting on the first point, and you've got a good denial of the impact of media on violence. On the second point, an interesting analogy that you make to the classroom on that first point also. The statistical data on shootings I thought was pretty interesting, so the violence issue I think is addressed pretty well. And then you diminished the claims on the third point substantially, and I thought that you did a good job in putting it into context. You might also point out that the number of those crimes that you say are incredibly small to begin with, what's the percentage of those crimes that are incredibly small to begin with that are actually related to the technology? That's the extra step that you need to take on that point, because I think that's the argument you're ultimately trying to make there. You got a really good summary of what your argument was at the end of the speech, and I thought that was an effective finish. All right, thank you.